Welcome to the Loc'd Talks podcast. I am your host, Tyree Wilson. And whether you are a man or a woman who is either married, separated, standing for your marriage, or divorced, this podcast is here to support you. And what's going on, everybody? This is Tyree. Welcome back to another episode of Loc'd Talks. And if you couldn't already tell on my side, I have a special guest for everyone who has asked a billion times, when is she ever going to be on the podcast? And I said soon. And then you asked me again, when? And I said soon. And you asked me again, and I said fine. But be warned. This is my better half, Mrs. Tiffany Wilson, who has been a big support to the podcast and a just amazing. And in the last couple of years, you guys, and I really wanted her to share a bit of herself, her story with you all. And if you have any questions that you guys may want to pose for her to maybe answer in future podcasts, then go ahead and do it now. But for now, this interview is all about Mrs. Wilson. So where do we start? What do you want to start with?
Well, basically, we can start with the questions that everybody always asks. How did you guys bounce back? How did you guys get through it? Are you guys still going through it? It's basically the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why. And no, I'm not a mythical unicorn. I do exist. I do support Tyree in all his endeavors and that he does with Loc'd Talk and the coaching that he does and the questions that he's asked, and he kind of bounces those to me. And like you say, I don't sugarcoat, not by any means, and I don't see the point in doing such, because if you know your better half, you know how they are, you shouldn't be shocked at the response. You shouldn't be shocked at basically the truth when it comes back.
Okay. So, what some of the questions that people have asked, they say, how many years, they always ask me this, and my answer might be different from yours.
Oh, no.
But we're going to ask, how many years have you guys been restored?
It all depends on the person, because everybody's differently. Everybody's emotion is different. You can't just repair and give an umbrella kind of fix all for restoration. It takes time and everybody is different. To me, it feels like it's been 2.5, almost 3 years, because there are still internally emotions that I have to sift through, and then there's still externally emotions that I'm giving to my husband. There's still external emotions that I'm giving to not only my husband, our relationship, and who we are and who we represent to one another and who we represent to our children. Everybody outside the house, that's not my concern. I'm concerned about what's going on underneath our roof. I'm concerned about what's going on with us, and not only together, but also on an individual standpoint. I said, there's no sugarcoating saying, well, he says one answer, I say one, and I say one answer. Once again, everybody is different. I'm not going to give an umbrella statement or umbrella kind of time frame on it.
So, okay, so I get it. So that's cool, because when people ask me, I say 3 years.
Oh, okay.
So 2.5, 3 years, we on the same page.
Yeah, we bought a ticket together. We
so we're pretty much on the same page. So when I tell you guys, it's been 3 years for us, I mean it, and it's 3 years, really going on 4 years, maybe this year, something like that. I won't push it, but something like that. Another question that people ask is, what happened? Basically, everybody asks what happened. When people ask me, this is how it is for me. When men ask me, in the event that they ask, not all of them are asking. You guys are not all asking, just a few people. When they ask me what happened, I say it was never one situation. I don't feel like it was ever one situation. I feel like it was just a whole buttload of things that we just kind of rushed through and swept under the rug and just kind of tried to plow through it without unpacking and dealing with everything. And I felt like at some point, whether for you or for me, it just became too much.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
At some point. So, what was it? You don't have to get specific with it. Obviously, this ain't the platform for that. They're gonna have to get a little bit more personal with you, if they want to know all of that. But what was it like for you when you were deciding that our relationship may not be the best thing to be a part of?
Well, for a lot of times, people joke at the phrase, "Oh, I can't adult today." Well, I'm not going to be an adult today, and I think we've experienced adult situations, but we were not experienced adults at handling situations. And what I mean is the fact that yes, we may be married, we have a household, we have bills, we have children, we still have our individualism, and also we have our cohesive and togetherness. But at the same time, when you throw life events that have compiled over years from us being together when we were teenagers, and the next you know, those characteristics, those personalities, and those day-to-day norm functions that individually that we were used to doing and carrying on as children, we carried that over into our adult lives, and then we carried that over into our marriage. Those situations snowballed and became bigger on a bigger platform where now there's a household at stake, there's children at stake, and it's bigger than us individuals. We wanted to, I can't say us to speak for you, that on myself, I did not want to deal with you any longer. I wanted to just have my children and basically run away from the situation. I didn't want to adult the situation because it felt like I wasn't prepared to deal with this kind of issue on an adult platform. Because when you are boyfriend and girlfriend, you just break up. You're just fiancés, you break up. When you are an adult, you're married, and you have life, actual, true life happening. Some people they just don't want to adult. I fully myself I didn't want to adult because it got to the point where it's the fact that I couldn't stand being in a situation any longer, and that was the only solution is to basically run away. That's what it felt like to me.
So I gotta ask for the audience, so you guys get context as to what it is that we're dealing with, what it was like for Tiffany. I felt like people are going to want to ask this one really hard question. I'm going to ask this question. And I believe I could ask you this because between the two of us, you're probably more apt to keeping it real. You know what I'm saying? At least putting it out there like, okay, this is raw or
Yeah.
this is brutal. So, what did I do? If you want to tell the people, what was it on my part that I screwed up on, and how badly did I hurt you? And I'll let you talk to the people about it because if they don't hear it,
In the world we live in, it doesn't matter what you identify yourself as being a human being. When I mean that, if you identify yourself as a man, you're a woman, you're a man, therefore, such what, whatever you identify yourself as. Now, understand that that is the base. I believe, and I've seen it with my own eyes, there are people amongst this world that have similar characteristics, similar build, similar skin tones that, remind you of a certain individual or they remind you of you. So when I have seen the extracurricular activities and I'm seeing certain characteristics build upon the other females that remind me of myself. It's kind of like the images that you want to put out there, like, okay, They look like me in a way, but they're not me. So, what makes them more adaptable to grasp my husband's attention that I cannot keep? What makes them more adaptable, more approachable, and that wanting, that lingering, that I need to be here, either it was mentally or physically, but what makes them apart from me? Then it got to the point where it's the fact that you participated in a level, whereas the fact that what was wrong with me. So I started to question myself. I started to question any and everything I was doing as a woman. And I started to begin to question any and everything that I was doing as a wife. So I began to tweak, change myself to mimic said individuals that piqued or caught his interest. Then again, to lose myself and question, like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? Because it's the age old saying, what you did to keep your man and what you did to get your man beginning, you need to continue to do to keep him. That is an age old myth, is an age old saying, because once again, we're all human. We're all naturally drawn to certain characteristics. We're naturally drawn to certain things, but what makes a husband or a wife or the other individual take that extra step to put into action? Like what it comes to the question of what did I do to push him away? So and it
So,
got yeah, so that's just what it is.
so if you, for anybody who's watching this and they don't quite get what she's saying, which she was very clear, but even lamer terms for everybody else was other women had my attention, and not so much that they were vying for my attention. I was giving it to them willingly. If you want to give it a word, you can call it infidelity. You can call it an affair. You can call it cheating. I believe in. I think everything you said encompasses all of that.
Right.
There's no, you can't break it down and compartmentalize those
Right.
things, because to do so would be disingenuous to whatever it was that you felt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think it's important to speak about this on the podcast, you guys, because there are a lot of people who are consider themselves standards, who are fighting for their marriages and will not talk about why they're standing in the first place, as if their divorce is some huge magic trick, something that just came out of the works, and they don't know exactly how to deal with it. There are a lot of men and women, but mostly for the guys, who know why they are in the position that they're in. However, there isn't a place to that's not a place for you to arrive at mentally and then feel like you can't make it. Because for a long time, because of the way that Tiffany explained it, I totally agree with how she felt, how I did her. I agree with how she felt, and I agree with the action she wanted to take, which was getting a divorce. I agreed with it at first because it made sense. I mean, if I had done what I did for whatever reasons I had, how could I then ask her to respond to my uh to my issues the way that I wanted her to respond? That's not fair. And for anybody who is standing for their fighting for their marriage, if you feel like your husband or your wife is not listening to you, it's because it could be one of the reasons is because that you weren't listening to them, and you're not validating how they felt, or the fact that they want to live as individuals from you to find out what it is that they want to do, how they should do it, and if they have it in their heart to work it out with you. Now, a lot of people don't know I speak about God and I speak about Jesus and what He's done in my life personally. You've mentioned before that you've seen the change in how I follow God now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
What people don't know is that you were actually raised in church a whole lot longer and a whole lot deeper than I was.
Yeah.
So, what is it that, if I can ask you a two-part question,
Okay.
in what way has church or religion or your relationship with God, how has that helped you as an adult, as an adult wife and mother? How has it helped you?
Well, to be honest, there's a lot of times where we were going, when I say going through, not on a physical sense. We weren't, going to the battlefield, fighting each other, nothing like that. I said, but when we were going through the life issues, when we were going through our problems, our marital problems, I used to literally get down on my knees, sweat, cry, and beg God to help me through a divorce. Because it got to the point where, from cover to cover, I have read this Bible from cover to cover, from Sunday to Sunday, literally my entire life. I have lived this way. What if this particular way is not meant for me to live anymore? What if I cannot live and abide by what God wants me to be in a wife? I cannot fulfill, you know, the rules and regulations there is to be a wife under God's. I used to literally beg him, I need a divorce because I am not fulfilling anything there is to be a wife. I am not fulfilling the role of a woman in the household. And once you literally beg God to go against what he stands for, is a divorce. It's like you're begging, it's like almost like you're begging someone, you're begging a priest to kill you. That's exactly what it felt like. And that internally just, it ate away at me. It ate away at what, at any and everything that I wanted and had to do in life. It was basically a step away of a mental and physical breakdown. I said I had to take time out of work. I had to do counseling at work. I had to do group therapy counseling because it ate away at me so deep and so much. I was completely done, just done. What was the other part of the
So the
question?
second part of the question is, yeah, because you mentioned, now that you told me, I could just change the question now. But well, you said that it was like asking your priest to kill you,
Yes.
which the answer is basically no.
Right.
It's not going to happen. So in a sense, you did you feel like you had to, no matter what and how you felt, God was telling you to deal with it,
Basically.
and that's hard for a lot of people
Yeah.
because when they ask God for anything, they feel like, not saying you, but people really believe that God is a magic genie.
Right.
That when you pray to him for any amount of time, for the guys that's listening, you know who you are. You're praying to God and you're praying to God like he's a magic genie, gonna show up in your life and make things happen. And it doesn't work that way because I can tell you at the same time I was praying for you to at least hear me out.
Mm.
I believe that was it. I was at least asking to be her. Like I wasn't praying about if she would ever forgive me and all that other stuff. I think that time would tell something like
Mm-hmm.
that. I asked God to give me the strength to speak to you, not as your husband, and um, not as like a lover spurned or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It was, can I please speak to this woman as Tyree, the individual? You know what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that would benefit a lot of couples if they were to sit down, no matter what stage the marriage or relationship or friendship, whatever it was,
Right.
that both parties are at least able to sit down and really break down, like, okay, this is where I am,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where I was. And I believe the hardest part for me, you guys, like me, I decided to stand for my marriage. It wasn't a right quick thing, and it wasn't like after a year or so. It was at one point. Um, I saw a look on your face, and I don't know if everybody remember this podcast or not. I saw a look in your face when we were at Wendy's
Mm-hmm.
and we were with the girls, and the look on your face when we were having like a family lunch or whatever like that, the Wendy's on East Avenue,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and you were like just staring out. I guess you were staring or you were looking down. I don't know, whatever it was, but that was the day. That moment literally changed the way I felt about you and us because I had never seen you I never seen you so exhausted. I had never seen you so lost for words. I never seen you look like you wanted to just get away
Mm.
so badly that to even have me in front of you, it looked like you lost your appetite. It looked like you didn't want anything to do with it. And I didn't look at you like, oh, she hates me. I didn't look at you like that. And I didn't say, oh, she's just angry. She
Uh-huh.
hates me. Like resentful. There's a lot of people who worry about what their wives feel like and what their husbands feel like. There's a time and place for that, but not every time.
Right.
I finally had to look at you as this is a woman that I have never seen look like this. And she looks like this not only because of what happened with me and her, but just her life overall. That you did not expect any of this.
Mm-hmm.
When we got married, when we got a house, when we had bills and a job and we were in school, and it was like, how can you have all these things and then feel like you have none of it?
Right.
And I just like I didn't look at you. I looked at what was happening around us. And I couldn't help but feel terrible as to how things got to that point and how quickly they got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you remember, but I like shouted your name. And I remember like smacking the table at the same time. And I had shouted your name. And it wasn't like I was trying to take back the situation from you or anything like that. Trying to assert myself, which is some men do when we're frustrated. We don't know what to say, so we use our action.
Mm-hmm.
Which action does help, but there's a time and place for that. But I wanted to reach out and let it be known that I was ready to take accountability for what happened. That I was officially ready to take accountability for no matter how I felt, no matter what my reasons were, it did not justify my actions.
Mm-hmm.
It never does. And when you do things without accountability or empathy for the other person, you go too damn far. You go too far. No matter how good you think you can talk and uh, justify the situation, whatever reasons you have, I felt like none of that mattered. Because at the end of the day, this is the result.
Mm-hmm.
You get somebody who is literally a shell at a moment where we used to all be present in the moment. And I just felt like at that point, I decided I was like, I need to do whatever I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked God, whatever I have to do. You don't remember this, but well, maybe you do. When you came home and it was on my birthday,
Mm-hmm.
and I started crying as soon as you told me that you came home to, be with me for my birthday, and you were like, what in the world are you crying for?
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a podcast about that. And it was an issue that I had, and it had nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
It was with me. And during a sermon I heard from T.D. Jakes, he like talked about how if I don't take care of the pain and issues I had from my childhood or what I expected my life to be like,
Mm-hmm.
then I would never have happiness. There was no way you could have made me happy. And my biggest issue was about how I felt about my birthday and how I felt about me being bullied and how I felt like being called a nerd and you know what I'm saying, like stuff I went through in my childhood that a younger me had to deal with, and then now to deal with a divorce, um, I just felt like I had no purpose. Mm. And it wasn't until, like TDJ said, I put that child away, and immediately I felt freed. Like I didn't know what it was. A huge weight came off my chest. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I did that, mm-hmm, you had come upstairs. And I was just like, and I said, what are you doing? And you said, I wanted to come see you for your birthday. And I just couldn't hold back. I couldn't believe just how fast. That's how God works. Like to me, that's how God works. He's a suddenly type of guy. Suddenly, if you guys didn't hear me, he's suddenly. And that was that moment. And it had me trust God. He said, if you would just let it go, I can help. if you would just let it go. And I let it go, and just as soon as I thought it happened, and I was just like, I couldn't believe it. At that point, it didn't matter how I felt. It never mattered how I felt. It was, I will do whatever I have to do because God said, He told me to let it go, and He showed me it was okay to let it go. And I'll do whatever it takes. I don't know about y'all. I feel like it worked out. I felt like it worked out. I know you gotta get ready to go. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't. We did this podcast before she had to go to work, and now she about to be hella late messing with me.
No, I'm not. No.
How much time we got left?
I guess one more time for one more question.
God, that's a nigga good. Well, I don't know. What's another question? I don't know what question other people would ask or whatever. But again, you guys ask your questions in the comment section. Email me. Text me for those who have my cell phone number, and I'll ship them to Tiffany. Tiffany will ship them to me, and I'll give them to you, or you can just ask. I don't know how you want to do it, but we'll do it. We'll get you your answers and really talk about this thing. So, a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
A podcast. When you start seeing me putting together stuff for a podcast for marriage, for helping men and women who are standing for their marriage, what did you think?
Well, at first, like I said, this is, to be honest, it was one of those, I'm going to keep it censored. It was one of those, like, what the heck? At first, I was pissed because all this effort, all this energy, all this time, all this studying, all this reading, and all of you were giving once again, all of you were being given, and all the attention was being given to a subject, was being given to other people. And once again, coming from a place in our marriage where you were already giving your attention to someone else, I really had a hard time dealing with that. And at first, I didn't even want to deal with you when you were doing your podcast. Mm. So there was a lot of nights where I would, sleep in the back room or I would sleep on the couch because that's how much I wanted to distance myself from you because you were giving your attention to others. But as I grew along with you doing and developing your podcast, and I'm hearing you do open conferences, or I'm hearing you doing phone interviews and helping individuals, it was one of those kind of sayings that people say when you hear people talk about their problems. Oh, it's better you than me, better you than me. And I can say, I can fully contest, it was some of the problems that I was hearing. I was like, oh my God, it is better them than me because I will never deal with half the things some of these wives are going through or some of these husbands are going through. And it's like you hear, not just eavesdropping, but I would sit there and I would listen. And as you're talking, you're coaching everybody through their problems, or they just need a shoulder or a lending ear. It got to the point where it's like, you know what? This is how Tyree is going to work through our marital problems by actually talking and building a platform for everybody else to use. It's one of those, how you know if a diet plan works, if you see the person putting it out there and they still looking roly-poly. If they're not fit, then it's not going to work. But I see Tyree working through his personal issues that he's dealing with our marriage individually, and we work with them together as husband and wife, but at the same time it's also helping other individuals. So it's like I see it helping him where he has to deal and give his attention to others, but at the same time he gives that attention back to me 10 times fold by we talk, we go on walks together, we sit and we have conversations, not what's going on in the media, not what's going on, the hottest craze, whatever. It's like we actually sit, husband and wife, two adults, a man and a woman, and we actually sit and we have conversations about the day, about issues and our emotions. We actually sit and we converse deeply. And that's one of the things that was missing. We never had true communication. So I believe this podcast is helping us communicate linguistically better towards one another.
All right. So, like what I tell you guys, if you ever ask, what is your testimony and all of this? Listen, you're learning as I'm learning. We're doing this is not a me. I'm not just teaching you guys. I'm not just teaching and I'm not preaching and ministering and all of those things. I am literally sharing my thoughts with you. When the microphone is on, I'm sharing my thoughts with all of you. And it could be where I'm at. I have a list of content, a list of questions and ideas that I want to talk to and I will get to over time. But for the most part, if I'm doing a podcast, I'm giving you exactly what area of mental space I'm in at that time. So we are taking this journey together. And as you guys ask your questions, I don't have any problems with answering any of those questions. I don't have any problems. As long as you don't ask me my foot size, I'm good. Um, you got to get ready to go. Can I ask two quick questions?
Okay.
Okay. Woo! Jesus.
Now, see, this is supposed to be your last question, but you got two quick ones. Okay.
Yes, yes, yes. Listen, I have a male audience as well as a female audience. For the guys that are dealing with, and you've probably heard some of the things that some of these guys are dealing with, may not always necessarily be what their wives are doing, but maybe the process in which being ex-husbands and being uh, single fathers, what they're going through. Do you have any quick advice for the men on how to stay focused while they're going through their stand?
Well, for the single fathers out there, and uh, people say, oh, the word hate is a strong word, but understand when I say I hate hearing the single mom and the single dad plight or whatever. First of all, get off your soapbox. Nobody wants to hear that anymore. You're single. Get over it. Okay? You're there for your children. You need to be there to build a platform for them so that they can be strong, so that they know that going forward with their life, they're not going to sit here and say, oh, well, if my mom and dad were still together, or if this, if that. You don't want them going through their adult life, their adolescence, with the if, oh, well, it's me. Do not put that on your children. No one should ever put that on your children because that makes them grow up faster. And guess what? When they feel as if they need to grow up faster, now in their adulthood, they're going to have an adverse effect where the fact that, oh, I missed out on my teen years. Now I need to be a 45-year-old act like I'm 18. That's a no. As the man, you have to understand the fact that you need to be there for your children, whether you have all girls, all boys, a mix, or whatever it is. You need to be there for them. You need to be their platform, so that they know the fact that our dad is here for us. He's going to be strong for us. Internally, it may be eating you up, but here's the thing: you need to find a healthy outlet, whether it's your religion, whether it's a group, whether you're going to work and you have a certain lunch group that you sit down with. You need to have a positive outlet where you can confine and release positively. Now, women, this goes for y'all too. Stop with the whole, oh, I'm a single mom, then you want to say your name. Okay, we know you're single, so what? We know you are a mom, and you need to be twice as strong. Don't sit there and dog someone who's no longer there. Don't put all the effort, energy, and time into someone who's not there no more. Whether they left on their own accord or however they have exited the relationship, it's over. Let it go. There's nothing worse than a woman's scorn. That is not a lightly stated statement. It is actually fact. Now, I'm not saying because I have it all and I know it all. It's just get over yourselves. You guys put that out there as if we're supposed to sit here with a box of tissues and say, oh, girl, you're going to be okay. No, you yourself have to look in the mirror every morning and say, I'm going to be strong for my family. I'm going to be strong for myself. And going forward, I need to be strong for whatever future that we have together for your children. It's always for your children. Never put your adult life on your children. They really they internalize that, and a lot of children cannot deal with that. And once again, when they see their mom being strong, their mom handling things, it's like, okay, well, my mom can do it, so can I. You want to be the role model for your children, not society, not Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, none of that. You yourself, when you wake up in the morning, you get yourself together. Whatever it is you have to do, you do it. When your children see you doing it, they follow suit. That's all I'm saying.
So how would they stay focused in the midst of? So I'm talking about men and women who are fighting for their marriage or praying for their marriage. What could they be doing, or what is your advice for them to stay focused while fighting for their marriage? 'Cause we get it. Women like to call themselves strong, men as well, but there are certain situations where strong isn't necessarily the correct term to use. Some people are not committed, and some people are not disciplined, and
Mm-hmm.
then some people feel like they can give it to God, but they want to check up on it
Mm-hmm.
and call it their own. So, if what would you say to those individuals, the ones who are having a hard time staying focused?
Well, for the men and women that are both fighting for their marriage, the key aspect is I know nobody wants to talk to one another, but here's the thing. You guys have to understand and learn linguistics. When you're talking to someone, you are basically verbalizing at them, and they are supposed to be a sponge. You're not supposed to say anything back. You're just talking at them, and that's it. When you are conversing, when you're rallying, when you're having a conversation, that means both parties are going, not necessarily say back and forth, but both parties are adding to the conversation. Both parties are adding to and listening to what each other problems are and what the situation is. Never be afraid to verbalize. Now, here's the thing. I didn't say vocalize, meaning you don't have to raise your voice, you have to change octaves or anything like that. When you verbalize your conversations and you use smart linguistic speaking, you actually get a better understanding. You get a clear, concise understanding of the problem, the issue, the plan, and the action, what needs to be carried out, why it needs to be carried out, and who's going to help us carry out this plan. Whether it's through counseling, whether it's through, lawyers need to get involved, whether it's through church or a help group or whomever you would like to bring in for both parties to actually sit here and have both sides being heard. Never sit here and do the shouting match. That's the number one problem there is. Everybody's viewpoint and ideas and concerns need to be heard, but the platform you use it, that needs to be calm, it needs to be mellow, and it needs to be in a space where the fact that no one has dominance over any other person. It needs to be neutral. That's what I have to say about that one.
Well, so basically, everybody just stay involved. Um, for some people, it's hard, and it's really a choice.
That will be our little one letting us know that it's done.
Not right now, okay? Not right now, okay? Lord have mercy.
You gonna edit this part?
No, I'm not editing anything. I'm uploading it all.
Oh, okay.
I'm not gonna do that. I upload everything.
Well, it's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Get ready to go to work.
Yeah, you gotta get ready to go, Chief. Okay. And now y'all heard it. Okay, so you heard it from her, from Tiffany. You know, she's not a mystery. She's not a unicorn. She is a real person. She exists. And it takes work, y'all. And it's not, it's really not like, you know, you go through it, you work it out, and then it's all good. In fact, I would say to some of you guys who are still, who have been restored, or maybe you're not restored, listening to somebody who's restored, it ain't over. Just because once you enter into this lifestyle, it's really not over. Because there's more about you personally that you could learn. There's more about the other person that you're with that you learn more from, because they change too. They change like you do. They grow like you do, and they experience the world in the way that they'll experience it, and hopefully they can communicate and share their part of their story in their world with you. When you're standing for your marriage, it is never the same, and that's a good thing. It's never the same, and that is a good thing. But for everybody else who's fighting for their marriage, for anyone who's trying to, who's just having a hard time staying focused, or uh, trying to learn how to let go, you know, that's my big hang up, is how people always ask me about how to let go and let God. It's really not that hard. It's hard because you're not sure that the outcome will favor you. That's why you have such a hard time with it. But to be honest, to let go and let God is very simple. It's just a choice. And the choice is this: you have to choose to understand you don't know everything. And you should not be trying to understand everything. Can you imagine what type of person you would be if you knew everything? You'd probably be the worst version of yourself. Take take it with a grain of salt. You don't know everything. And because of that, you're willing to learn anything. And that will help you. And you'll be able to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. That's the whole point of this being your own journey. Whether you guys call me on the phone or schedule with me or not, even if you guys had to call Tiff or whatever the case may be, at the end of the day, it is your choice what you choose to do, whether you're a prodigal spouse or a standing spouse. It is still your choice. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and share them down in the comment section. Send me a voice message. Give me an email. I answer all of them all the time because I like reading what you guys say. Let me know what you thought of the podcast, and let me know if you would like to have Tiffany back on the show for more questions, maybe something more centered around her answering your questions instead of me being the middle guy.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be all right.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. All right, you guys. So that's it for today. Have a wonderful night. What time is it? Oh, dear God. It's time to go. And I will see you guys next time.
Bye.